Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Planet Futbol, episode 91. We're here to break down all the biggest and most important stories happening in the football world. Today we'll be speaking with New England Revolution midfielder and MLS Newcomer of the Year, Carlos Gil, as well as the Athletic's Meg Linehan in studio. I'm Grant Wahl, and sitting across from me is the man, the myth, the legend, Luis Miguel Echegaray. You ready to get this thing going?
We have some great guests today.
We do.
I'm excited.
I am too.
Let's
dig into this. The big story this week is the U.S. men's national team's 2-0 loss to Canada, which got its first win against the Americans in 34 years. How big is this crisis for the men's national team, and what can Greg Berhalter do about it?
It's huge and very little. I mean, listen, it's big.
Yeah.
It's big. Where is the identity? Where is the fire? Where is the consistency of both those things? It's one thing to talk about this in the first few months after the assignment, right? After Greg Berhalter joined. And it's another thing to even talk about it 9 months after. It's another thing to even talk about the fact they're a young squad, they're still trying to build chemistry. But we are talking now about an extended period of time where the U.S. men's national team possibly looks worse than when they suffered that loss against Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm not exaggerating because I know that you feel the same way. And I know that many in the Twitter sphere and in our industry feels the same way. This is nothing to talk about, how much of I respect Greg Berhalter. It's to me now are two big issues, which is one, his stubbornness as a tactical manager, I think, which is what I'm talking about, where I understand that there's this need to create a sense of, pass and move, possession-based, understanding unity amongst your players. But I see zero creativity, specifically when they enter, the 18. I'm looking at Mexico, the game after that, and it's just, JJ Macías scoring another goal, and it's, inside the box, aggression. I'm looking at Peru, Uruguay straight after that as well. And obviously different continents, different situations, but there is fire. There's just anger. And the U.S. men's national team should be angry that it didn't make the World Cup. And right now, all I see is loss, frustration, without an identity. And that to me is really, really scary. And I'll say one last thing. Tata Martino would have been excellent for this team. Excellent. And I know that I'm going to say it until I die, and I have so much respect for Greg Berhalter. I really do. But now, more than ever, I really feel that he's not the man for the job.
It's incredible to me that Tata Martino was ruled out, even though he was interested in the U.S. job because he didn't speak good enough Spanish. He did just fine at Atlanta. He won the title in Atlanta.
In his first, not first season in this, but...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I could go down that road. Here's what I'll say is, on the field, and this gets at the identity stuff, the U.S.'s best men's teams ever, and I'm talking 2002, 2010, even Klinsmann's team in 2014, I thought were hard to play against. And that was really important because it was a collective approach that this team is going to be hard to play against. It may not be the most exciting team in the attack. Sometimes it could be. But it was hard to play against. And I don't think it's mutually exclusive to be a hard team to play against that also can do things creatively with the ball in the attack.
Absolutely.
You can have one and have the other. But in the latter half of the Klinsmann years, and then in Bruce Arena 2.0, and now here again under Berhalter, this U.S. team is not hard to play against. Canada deserved that victory the other night. They should have won by more. It was embarrassing. And all credit to Canada. They're getting better.
Absolutely.
But still. And so that's a big part of it. And I wrote a column about this for SI.com as well. It's not just about Berhalter. On the field, he's trying to introduce things that I think are difficult for a national team manager to do with players that he's got. He's trying to do too much. I had a chapter in my book where Roberto Martinez talked about the differences between coaching a club team at Everton and a national team at Belgium, where he is right now. And he's like, huge difference in the amount of time you have with your players. You just can't do as much. You shouldn't try to do as much.
And look at the players that he was missing. You could talk about Josie Altidore, Brooks, Tyler Adams. Of course, key players were missing. But I go back to my point, which in this extended period of time with the team, and you're right, it's not just about Berhalter, but this is now a situation where there is just loss. The U.S. men's national team is like a boy lost in the woods in the fog, and there is no idea, there's no flashlight, right? Whether you smash yourself into a tree because it's foggy or you get out of it, at least something needs to be done, because I see zero. Look what, at the end of that game against Canada, look what it meant to Canadians. Obviously, it meant so much because of, the first win in so long, but it was more than that. There was a fire ignited by a manager that at least is trying to instill that, and I haven't seen that with the U.S. men's national team.
Plus, U.S. Soccer did Greg Berhalter no favors, because if he had taken that job a year earlier, when he would have taken it, he would have had a hell of a lot more time to actually work on this complex stuff in 2018 as opposed to 2019, and maybe the U.S. would be in a much better place right now than they are. I also think U.S. Soccer didn't do Greg Berhalter any favors by only interviewing him and one other person, Oscar Pereira, because that gave the impression that, Berhalter's so amazing as a coach, we didn't even need to interview Jesse Marsch or Tata Martino or Bob Bradley or Tab Ramos or Juan Carlos Osorio or Julian Lopetegui or Roberto Donadoni or anyone else who was interested in the job. And that's not doing a favor to Greg Berhalter, because he's clearly not so much better than these other guys. He's probably not as good in some ways.
Yep, well said. On the U.S. women's side, the news is that Laura Harvey is out of the running for the coaching job, and the heavy favorite is now Reign FC's Vlatko Andonovski. Grant, would he be a good or a bad choice for this team?
What's interesting to me is, I personally think yes. The more I have learned over the years about Vlatko Andonovski, I think he is a good fit for this U.S. team. But especially the players. The players themselves who are on the U.S. women's national team, the veterans have all talked to Kate Markgraf, the general manager who's in charge of this hire. The players wanted Vlatko Andonovski, and he is very likely now to get this job. And that's interesting to me. It shows that the players maybe have a little more voice with the person doing the hiring this time than in previous times. It also suggests that if the players are going to be this supportive of Andonovski, and everyone I talk to says, we love this guy, he's going to be good for us, that you're not going to have a situation where the players revolt like they did on Jill Ellis or April Heinrichs or Tom Sermani. So that part's interesting to me too, that there is a lot more player power inside this U.S. women's national team, which obviously is the world champion, than maybe on the men's team.
I like the fact that if it does happen and he does enter, you've talked about obviously the respect that he has both in NWSL and also internationally, a meticulous, energetic. We have Meg Linehan talking way more about this later in the show. Somebody that's well respected. To me also, it's the fact it's the timing. When this happens, it's a pretty seamless situation. Entering a really rich squad, right? Experience and youth. Obviously, the first hurdle is the Olympics, but because only 18 players are going to the Olympics, there's not much that he's going to shock you with, right? So it's pretty much, to me, the only one is he going to be the first one that says, sorry, Carly Lloyd, we're moving on from now? That to me is the biggest mountain that he might be able to climb. But everything points to the fact that this is a respected manager, understands American soccer culture, understands NWSL, is extremely passionate about the game, and is entering an environment where the squad is both rich, youthful, and the world champion.
Plus, Vlatko is former player and coach of the indoor soccer Kansas City Comets, which is my Aston Villa, right?
Yeah,
for you.
I love it.
And that's the team I grew up watching.
I love that. Love it.
The MLS playoffs start this weekend with 6 games. What's the biggest upset that you're predicting, and why?
So our podcast listeners from Monday, they heard a little bit about this, but I think I've changed my mind a little bit. Not in everything, but I can't remember what I said on Monday, but my one to look out for is New England Revolution. And it's not because of the guest.
At Atlanta.
At Atlanta. And it's not because of, our guest today. I'm not trying to, live up to it. I'm looking at a few things. Number one, it's no surprise or shock to say that this is a different Atlanta United.
Correct.
Right? This is not the Tata Martino Atlanta. I'm not saying that they can't do it. I'm not saying that they can't retain the title. Of course they can, right? But the issue for me is the fact that, one, Miles Robinson is out for this game.
Right.
And two, in big moments, defensively, they look very vulnerable. Now, the biggest point to me is that this New England Revolution, we can talk about, Gustavo Bau, we can talk about Carles Hill. It's about Bruce Arena and what this man has done to completely transform this team. Just before he arrived, this team had 8 points. It was lower than FC Cincinnati. And it had, it was just going on a trajectory that was just facing down, 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 down. And look where they are now. They made it to of course, 7 playoffs, 7 for each one in each conference is not necessarily an incredible achievement, but it is something to be said that when Bruce Arena entered, this was a different team. And we're talking about a manager that understands what it takes to win in this league and what it takes to overcome difficult situations. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but if you're telling me that if there's an underdog that can maybe surprise you, it's New England Revolution at Mercedes-Benz Stadium against a team that already defensively vulnerable in big moments now has one of its key players out for the game.
I'm going to say I'm picking 2 teams to win on the road this weekend in the playoffs. I've got Portland winning at Salt Lake. I don't even think that's really much of an upset because Portland won both games during the regular season. They played very well against Salt Lake. I will pick LA Galaxy beating Minnesota United in Minnesota. Is it an upset? Maybe not. But still, it's a challenge for Ibrahimovic and his team, especially because defensively they've been bad, especially at the end of the season. And yet, I see this as a game where we might really see something fun from Ibra, who, this might be like a 4-2, 4-3 type game. And Minnesota's had a really good year. So, far beyond anyone's expectations. Huge credit to Adrian Heath and his team. So, Adrian, don't come after me now that you're seeing this in the media because I know you like doing that. But I just look at the Galaxy as a team that, playing at their best, has a very high ceiling. They could win the whole thing. They honestly could. That's what's crazy.
Listen, they play LAFC. LAFC has never beaten the Galaxy. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a bug on anybody, right? But against LAFC especially so, El Tráfico, you never know what happens. It's a good bet. You never know.
I will also say, by the way, that I kind of want to see El Tráfico.
We all want to see El Tráfico. Well, staying with MLS, Grant, who do you predict to win MLS Cup?
Staying with LAFC, I think they are going to finally do it. Finally, it's their second year of existence, but they've been so far and away the best team in the league all season. And I do think this new playoff format rewards that a heck of a lot more. LAFC will get a bye in the first round. All they have to do is win 3 games at home. That's it. All of them are elimination games. I think Bob Bradley has had a lot of experience over the years, knowing how MLS playoffs work, how single game elimination works. He does have an issue with Mark-Anthony Kaye, potentially, who went out early in that game against the United States, and he's a really important player for them. But I see LAFC doing it in part because 3 games at home, that's all they got to do.
Like the battles of hip-hop in the 90s, I'm seeing this as an East Coast, West Coast rivalry, LAFC against NYCFC, and I see LAFC winning it for the reasons that you just said. I think Bank of California Stadium is a gigantic advantage. I think their fans are going to be right behind them. They have the best player in the league who just can't stop scoring. I think Kaye's possible absence is a problem, but they have enough weapons and a manager that knows how to get the best out of his team to win the whole thing. And in its second year, I'm with you. I think LAFC will win this, and all drinks will be on Will Ferrell.
Lastly here, we had to get to one Premier League question as the league starts up again this weekend. How long, Luis Miguel, do you think Liverpool will stay perfect in the Premier League?
In 3 weeks when Liverpool plays Aston Villa. No, I'm joking. I think this weekend.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to gamble and say this weekend.
Man United?
Here's the thing. Number one, we are in desperation mode for Manchester United now.
Yeah.
I think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is in a situation that, and his fans and the team knows that they need to get results. United has only won 2 of the last 13. And they know that regardless of where they end at the end of the season, this is a club that needs to show something. Everything is against them for this game. Liverpool's obviously looking to make history and equal Man City's 18 consecutive victories. Obviously, Alisson is returning, possible returning, and it's Liverpool that is just on fire. But I think, and also David De Gea is not going to play in this one. Paul Pogba's out. Hoping to see Aaron Wan-Bissaka back, Anthony Martial. But I think that they are going to see this game as a final, and they're going to need everything they can. I don't know if it'll be a victory, but you said when will the perfect season start? I think it might be a draw here. And then after this, Liverpool has Tottenham, which would be interesting as well. But I see Manchester United dying for their lives and trying to get something out of this game. And if it's a rout and Liverpool destroys them 6-7-0, which you never know, could happen. I see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer out of this team. So I really think they need something. I don't think it'll be a victory, but they'll do everything they can to at least get a point.
I think it is far more likely that we're going to see a Liverpool blowout of Manchester United at Old Trafford than that we'll see a result for Manchester United, especially given the personnel issues. Things are really bad at United.
They're bad. They're really bad.
Joining us now is Carles Gil of the New England Revolution, which meets Atlanta United in the MLS Playoffs this Saturday. Carles, thanks for joining us. Gracias por la entrevista.
Nada, vosotros, muchas gracias.
Primero, felicidades por ganar el premio de la Liga como la mejor transferencia del año, mejor nuevo jugador. Los ganadores previos incluyen a Zlatan Ibrahimovic y Miguel Almirón y otros. ¿Qué piensas sobre ganar este premio?
Bueno, la verdad es que es un momento muy especial para mí. Creo que, como tú has dicho, los precedentes son de jugadores de un nivel muy alto. Eso muestra que cada vez en esta liga el nivel es más alto. Los jugadores que llegan son de nivel más alto. Creo que está creciendo mucho y, creo que es un premio muy difícil de conseguir y, pues, afortunadamente este año me ha tocado a mí.
Carles, tu primer prueba en los playoffs de MLS es ante el campeón del año pasado, Atlanta United. ¿Cómo se están preparando para este partido y cuál es tu mentalidad, especialmente ya que se preparan a jugar en frente de un ambiente como Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
Sí, creo que empezamos fuerte los playoffs. La verdad es que, contra el vigente campeón, somos conscientes de que va a ser un partido muy difícil y más en su estadio, con muchísima gente, pero confiamos mucho en nosotros. Esta segunda vuelta hemos sido de los mejores equipos de la MLS, hemos conseguido encontrar el fútbol que queríamos y estoy seguro que se lo vamos a poner difícil.
Tú has jugado en España, en Inglaterra, empezaste tu carrera con Valencia, después Elche, mi equipo Aston Villa y Deportivo La Coruña, antes de tu transferencia a New England. ¿Cómo te gusta vivir acá en los Estados Unidos y jugar acá en MLS?
Pues la verdad es que me ha sorprendido para bien, estoy muy feliz viviendo, la verdad es que estoy encantado. Boston es una ciudad genial y luego la liga también me ha sorprendido muy bien, es una liga muy atractiva, creo que hay mucho más nivel de lo que la gente se piensa, sobre todo a nivel de jugadores. Creo que hay jugadores que yo personalmente, por ejemplo, no conocía antes y me ha sorprendido mucho y ya te digo, creo que es una liga que está en crecimiento y conforme vayan pasando los años va a tener más nivel.
Carles, tu entrenador, Bruce Arena, ha ganado más títulos que todos los otros entrenadores en la historia de la liga. ¿Qué aprendes sobre Bruce Arena durante esta temporada?
Bueno, la verdad es que es un placer estar a sus órdenes. Es, como tú dices, un entrenador muy, muy laureado, es más laureado del todo el país, tiene muchísima experiencia. Y creo que a la vista está lo que ha conseguido con nosotros, ¿no? Un equipo que tenía unos resultados muy bajos, con la moral muy baja. Fue un cambio sistemático desde que llegó, empezamos a ganar y nos ha conseguido meter en los playoffs y yo creo que no cuenta como un título porque no hemos ganado ningún título, pero creo que es una hazaña más a su currículum el conseguir que nosotros, que estábamos prácticamente fuera de los playoffs ya en marzo, lo haya conseguido.
Carles, como dije, yo de niño ya soy hincha de Aston Villa y uno de los mejores goles en la historia del club fue el tuyo en 2016 ante Sunderland. Fue un golazo. ¿Cómo te sentiste cuando notaste ese gol?
Pues sí, la verdad es que, bueno, creo que fue medio gol mío, medio de Adama, que hizo una jugada espectacular y bueno, fue un momento también muy importante para mí. Ya había metido otro gol, pero bueno, estábamos en una situación complicada y bueno, es un club que le guardo mucho cariño, que tengo una espinita clavada porque no salió todo bien que yo hubiese querido. Los primeros meses fueron muy buenos y luego pasaron demasiadas cosas negativas y no funcionó, pero bueno, ahora estoy muy feliz de verles otra vez en Premier League. Yo desde la lejanía también soy un Villa fan y nada, les deseo lo mejor.
Carles Gil, muchas gracias por la entrevista y buena suerte en los playoffs.
Muchas gracias a vosotros, un abrazo. Chao.
Joining us now in studio is Meg Linehan of The Athletic. Meg, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
No, thank you again for having me.
This is my first time with Meg, because last time I wasn't here.
Very exciting.
I'm very, very happy about this.
Lots to talk about. The NWSL semifinals are back-to-back this Sunday on ESPN2, starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Let's start with the first game. What stands out to you, Meg, about North Carolina-Seattle?
Well, first of all, Megan Rapinoe is actually going to be playing in this game. That's number one. I think she provides something for Reign FC that they've been lacking all season. I actually talked to head coach Vlatko Andonovski earlier this week. Obviously, he's got some news brewing on another front, but in the meantime, he was saying Megan Rapinoe's kind of been that player that they've been missing consistently all season, whether it's from injury, World Cup, you name it. She's now actually back in the mix. I think they have a game plan. I think that, North Carolina is obviously very heavily favorited to take this game. They've been the best team consistently for a number of seasons now. They have a reputation for a reason. But I think in terms of a coaching matchup between Vlatko Andonovski and Paul Riley, there's a little bit more to that than I think people are maybe necessarily giving this match credit for.
Let's talk about the other matchup, Chicago Red Stars and Portland Thorns. Sam Kerr against Christine Sinclair. I'm all about the heavy hitters. How do you see this one?
This one's really interesting just because the form of the two teams over the past 5 games is like a tale of two cities. Chicago's been on fire, winning 5. They got a nice bye week at the end of the season. Portland, on the other hand, they lost 6-0 to North Carolina Courage. They bounced back a little bit, won against Houston Dash, but they have really struggled to score goals. Christine Sinclair, actually, after the last game and another couple interviews, she's been like, we're just saving them for Chicago. But you have a team that's very much on fire right at the moment, and then a team that, they're used to having home semifinal games in Portland. They don't have that. They're going to go on the road to Chicago. I think it's a little more complicated than we've usually seen Portland's situation heading into a postseason.
Now, before the entire city of Tacoma comes after me, I will apologize for calling them Seattle. Of course, it's Reign FC, and they play in Tacoma. Let's move on. North Carolina is the heavy favorite to repeat its title. Of the 3 other teams, which one do you think is best equipped to take down the champs?
I think Chicago's they've had a really strong season. I think that we've seen them, they have questions in goal scoring simply because Sam Kerr has scored so many goals. She's, again, the Golden Boot winner this season. But in terms of the support that she's getting from players like Yuki Nagasato, they also have Defender of the Year candidate Casey Short. They have the pieces there, and, obviously, Alyssa Nair in goal. There are a lot of pieces in Chicago that actually, I think, put them in a good position to withstand the pressure from North Carolina. The question is, can anyone actually just withstand 90 minutes straight of North Carolina throwing every single weapon that they have at you? And a lot of teams this year have not necessarily gotten that job done. Actually, Reign FC is one of the few that have.
So let's talk about individual talent. We've talked about Sam Kerr, Sinclair, Megan Rapinoe, all offensive stars who could really shine in the playoffs. But there's also Lynn Williams, Kristen Hamilton from North Carolina, so many players from each team that could really cause damage, score goals, assists, what have you. Who do you see as a key player, somebody that can really shine in these playoffs?
You know, I think in terms of North Carolina, yes, every single player that you've listed, Jess McDonald is finding her form again, but Debinha is really a key player for them just in terms of ball handling skills, being able to score goals, being able to find a threaded pass through the midfield. Like, she really has a lot of talent. We've seen her really start to find her stride with Brazil. And I think that that's really now starting to translate in a much more meaningful way with North Carolina. I think she's a player to watch. Again, Yuki Nagasato for Chicago. Like, Sam Kerr deservedly gets a lot of attention, gets a lot of headlines, scores a lot of goals. But I think it's her partnership with Yuki Nagasato, who also just, like, incidentally is one of the most interesting people in this league. Like, she's in a rock band. Like, I don't know if you saw the video.
What's the name of the band?
I honestly could not tell you, but she plays drums. Like, the whole team went out and just supported her.
That is
like,
great.
She's out here having fun. Like, I think just in terms of sheer personalities for the league, Yuki Nagasato is like a great story, but I think she's also extremely key to Chicago's success just because you have to find other options beyond Sam Kerr.
I like the drumming. That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's awesome.
The heavy favorite to get the U.S. women's national team coaching job now is Reign FC's Vlatko Andonovski. You spoke to him this week for a story. For anyone out there who follows the national team closely, but maybe not as much NWSL, what do you say when someone asks, who is Vlatko Andonovski and how do his teams play?
Right. I mean, I think he's a really defensively minded coach, which is, I think, a little, you know, we know the U.S. national team is this high scoring thing and not necessarily as a defensive presence. Like, they have always gotten the job done. But I think with Reign FC, with FC Kansas City, we've seen these teams that he's coached be extremely strong defensively. And then he's got this philosophy, right? Like, he did an interview in 2017 with 442, and he said, on every single one of these teams, we have an artist that we build around. And we know that we're going to have this one player. Whatever they want to do to create, we're going to enable that. For FC Kansas City, it was Lauren Holiday. And we know what kind of player she was. For Reign FC right now, that player is Megan Rapinoe. They have not had as much time with her as they would like this season. They've gotten the job done anyway. Around that artist, they have warriors. And I think it's that mentality that's really exciting to bring that to the U.S. national team, because I do think that in terms of building a defensive core for this team to play, like, the international game is going to change. And I think defensive presence is going to be a very necessary thing for this team to have. And if there's one coach in the NWSL, I think, that has that track record that you can then point to and say, if you want one person to take the team in a new direction, that's the guy.
He's got a lot of, he's well respected, he's meticulous. What do you personally make of that move, of his appointment, his reported possible appointment to the team?
I'm very positive on it. I think that he is ultimately the right candidate. You know, obviously, we saw this week, reports came out, Grant was involved in saying, like, okay, let's slow down. And he told me directly, like, it's not true at this time. And there was a very heavy emphasis on at this time. But I think that, you know, he's someone who, after NWSL college draft, would literally just stand around for an extra 15 minutes after he's already done media, just to be like, here's my draft list. Do you want to look at it? I want to tell you what my thought process was. Like, he really just loves to talk about soccer, which I think, you know, it's not that we haven't had that in the past, but I think he's so passionate, and it's such a quiet sort of confidence, the way that he wants to talk about things. He's also, I mean, obsessed with getting an education. He went out and got a master's in coaching. He has his pro license. He's never satisfied by it. He wants to be the best, not just in terms of a pedigree of coaching, but knowing the most about the game.
But is he in a rock band?
Don't think he is. I don't think he has that going for him, though.
Yes.
I would pay a lot of money to see it.
Lots of stuff happening, obviously. U.S. women's national team pointing toward the Olympics next summer. This weekend, NWSL Playoffs. Meg Linehan for The Athletic. Check out her stuff. It's awesome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Rejoice! Club soccer is back. Let's get to this week's picks for Game of the Week. Grant, who do you have?
I've got Manchester United, Liverpool this Sunday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. The only Premier League game, by the way, on Sunday, but it is a good one here. And obviously one of the best rivalries in the history of world soccer. But you have two teams going in very, very different directions. Liverpool will be trying to get their 18th straight win in the league over 2 seasons. That would tie the record Man City had set not long ago. Man United going to be playing without David De Gea, without Paul Pogba, and they've been bad. So they're up against it here, and this really is a situation where there's high stakes. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer his job could be in jeopardy if the result doesn't go the right way. And, Liverpool, man, just like so much is going right for them this season. And it just feels like this is potentially maybe the year that they win the league for the first time in more than 20 years. But, crazy things happen. That's why we watch the sport. And crazy things often tend to happen right after an international window. We've talked about this, where if you have players that are flying really long distances to get back midweek and then be ready for a game on the weekend, that's not an easy thing to do.
Not at all. I am with you. I think this is a huge game. And like you said, Liverpool is on a roll right now. Alisson finally back to full training. The team is looking good. Manchester United is against the ropes. It's incredible the fact, having grown up just watching them destroy everybody. Now they're the ones that are in desperation mode. This is a big game, and I'm with you. I think that if the result, depending how big and bad it is for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, could really cost his job. So he really has to do everything he can at Old Trafford to at least rectify something and rejuvenate, the Red Devils' energy.
What's your game of the week?
My game of the week is Minnesota at home to LA Galaxy MLS Playoffs, Sunday, 8:30 Eastern. This is a big game. I mean, we talked about it already, but this is a big game. I think it's the game of the MLS playoffs this weekend for sure. Well, listen, for one, you have Minnesota United. Alliance feels going to be, really energetic, ready for this team. Zlatan Ibrahimovic coming to town. Minnesota United's record against Galaxy is not great, 0-4-2, but hoping that the postseason will be a different storyline for them. And I'm with Adrian Heath. He said that, listen, I think that in MLS, especially in the postseason, home advantage is huge. It's gigantic, and we have to take advantage of that. And I'm with him. But there are other, factors as well. This is a team that just had Ike Opara as a Defender of the Year, who's going to have his hands full, obviously, against Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I love Darwin Quintero. Let's see what he can do. Mr. Highlights, if he can do something in the postseason. And then you have on the other side, Schelotto, with Christian Pavon assisting Zlatan Ibrahimovic, coming to make sure that if they win it, a possible El Tráfico looms in the future, in the horizon. And to me, it's so much at stake for both sides. As you discussed earlier, defensively, LA Galaxy has been showing once again cracks, but this is a time for, this is going to be a high-scoring event, and I think it's one to watch for sure.
I also think there's really high stakes here for the LA Galaxy, because we've talked about this a little bit, that just because you make the playoffs in MLS, because so many teams make the playoffs, 14 out of 24, you shouldn't consider your season a success just to have made the playoffs. And the Galaxy are a perfect example. If they go out in this first game with as much as they've spent on their team and their coach, that's a failure. That's a giant failure, again, for Zlatan Ibrahimovic and that team, for Guillermo Barros Schelotto, everybody involved in that organization. So this is a huge game, I think, not just for both teams, but especially for the Galaxy. Like, if Minnesota were to lose this game, given the expectations entering the season, the fact they even got a home playoff game, impressive. People will come away saying, I feel pretty good about this team.
Future looks bright.
Not so for the Galaxy if they lose.
And their key star has the leverage. Like, Ibrahimovic can easily leave and go somewhere else, and then you have to start all over again with the Galaxy.
And now for our parting shots. This week, I had a fascinating podcast interview with Michelle Akers, viewed by many as the greatest women's soccer player of all time. She's auctioning her memorabilia to help support her work with horse and animal rescues, and we talked about the mixed reaction that she's getting to that from her former U.S. teammates. But I also asked Akers about how she's been treated by U.S. soccer, and she said that she definitely feels on the outside, as though she has been excommunicated by people in the federation. That is sad and undeserved, and it revived a question that I've had for a long time. What is it about the culture of U.S. soccer that has caused some of its biggest stars to be blacklisted? Michelle Akers, Eric Winalda, Hope Solo, Hugo Perez, they have been made outcasts by the Federation. And yes, it's true that they have all said extremely critical things about U.S. soccer, but why can't U.S. soccer accept that and not be so insecure that it acts as if a bridge has been burned? I can't give you all the answers as to why U.S. soccer is this way with an establishment and outcasts, but I can tell you, I wish it would change.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Hugo Perez, I know, has been responsible for, the development and growth of so many players through the years. Michelle Akers, arguably the greatest player that's ever lived in the women's game. It's very interesting, and it's sad to see, especially, given the recent climate after winning the Women's World Cup and how things evolve. I wish organizations and federations, and this is not solitary to USA, weren't as fragile, like you said.
Yeah, and I asked Michelle Akers, would you want to do television? And she said, yeah, she's the greatest player of all time. And I don't know if, look, I can't say if she's good or not, but I've also interviewed her enough over the years to know that I think she deserves a shot.
Right, absolutely. The year was 1994, a few years after my family had immigrated to England from Peru. Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United was leading 3-0 against Liverpool with just 20 minutes left to play, and then the Reds came back to make it 3-0 as the Kop held a banner that said, "Come back when you've won 18. It was one of the greatest matches of a young Premier League. Now we're in 1999. I'm a senior in high school, and we're watching the 4th round of the FA Cup. At Old Trafford, United had not lost to Liverpool in the tournament for 77 years. There are 2 minutes left in the game, and the visiting team is up 1-0 thanks to Michael Owen. Then my hero, Dwight York, taps it in to make it 1-0, and in injury time, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer plays off a ball from Paul Scholes and earns a quintessential smash and grab for the Red Devils. It wouldn't be the only one that year. I could go on and on about this fixture and how in many ways it has embodied the soul of the Premier League. They are the 2 most successful English teams, both domestically and in Europe, as both are even in total trophies with 42. But as both teams meet this Sunday for what's arguably the biggest EPL game of the weekend, there are 2 clear storylines where one club continues to grow and develop, while the other is a shadow of its former self. There are many reasons and arguments we can bring to why Manchester United is going through what it's going through, from a clear, misguided strategy in both development and scouting, to the owners themselves and their lack of interest or belief in attempting to save this grand club. There's an emotional, personal connection too, as Manchester United was my dad's club. Just like I became an Aston Villa fan when we moved to the UK in order to better connect with my new home, my dad fell in love with the mighty Red Devils, the hated, feared Red Devils. But now that's not the case, and Old Trafford is not the fortress it once was. I don't know what the future holds for Manchester United, but the present is bleak, and the obstacles are only getting bigger. Solskjaer is against the ropes as he hopes to revitalize a club he loves so much. There may no longer be stoppage time goals from him anymore or the electricity from the 90s, but his players and this club need to bring back the same euphoric energy it once had. Sunday is a huge day for Manchester United, and it's more than just 3 points.
Really good stuff, and agree with all of it. I find it fascinating. Man United has the highest payroll in the Premier League this season. And that's incredible when you look at the results that they're getting for it, how they're not far at all above the relegation zone. Liverpool, by contrast, is the 7th or 8th richest club in Europe. It's not one of the true heavyweights in terms of financial power, and yet they're the European champion. So the game's not just about money.
No, it's not. I think there's a Moneyball sort of philosophy to it. And listen, we had Edwin van der Sar here, and when he talked about Manchester United, you could see the nostalgia and the emotion and the history that this club brings, and it's sad to see. And like you said, it's not just about money. It's so much more than that, and hopefully they'll get back to that.
That is it for episode 91 of Planet Futbol. Thanks so much for joining us. Catch us next week and every week after that on Thursdays on YouTube or SI.com.